Great. All right, fantastic. So now we are ready to get going. We're now live on Facebook. We are starting the podcast. So welcome tonight with Jared, who has been one of our longtime guests and especially contributors in the After Party show. So to give those of you an idea, if you are just joining us for the first time, the way our podcast is structured is we get to kind of have an introduction with the guest for tonight, which Jared will tell us all about himself and why he is delusional and a San Francisco 49ers fan, because we cannot understand that. But after we get to know Jared a little bit, we usually tackle a topic of the night, which happens to be forgiveness tonight. Correct, Jared?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Oh, sure. Like, all right. Well, we'll come up with a different topic then. No,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm just gonna warn you guys. I am a sarcastic person, so bear with me.
That's totally fine, totally acceptable. So
you have to find humor in all things, right?
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
Amen.
So we are happy to have you tonight, Jared, in the hot seat. I know you've kind of watched several of these before, and you've been with us for a long time, but we've never really interviewed you and had a chance to get to know you.
I'm trying not to be cringeworthy, so you know.
Oh, there you go. Just wear a basic USA hat.
Safe. I like it.
Yeah, awesome. So my name is Everett, and we're here with tonight Tara from Boise and Celeste from Dallas. And Jared, you were in
Lancaster, California.
Lancaster,
And if nobody knows where that's at, it's just about an hour northeast of Los Angeles.
All right, fantastic. How long have you lived there?
Well, technically 44 years, but I mean, I grew up here. I moved away. I moved up to Bakersfield for about 24 years. And then I've just been back the last 3 years. So I mean, I've always been part of this area.
Okay, so Bakersfield.
Is no, not quite
in the middle of the desert.
Bakersfield. So Bakersfield is up in the central, closer to the central. Lancaster, we're considered the high desert. So whoever that was asking, sorry, this was me. Normally, no, I saw it on the chat. Sorry, this is the first time doing it from my laptop. So normally I don't see chats. So I don't know if I'm supposed to answer these chats as well. So.
Well, you know, we get a lot of stuff going back and forth during the podcast and the chat. So if you were to monitor the chat the whole time, you're going to be kind of distracted. So don't worry too much about it.
I'll let you handle the chat then.
Perfect. That works great.
The reason I was asking about Bakersfield is because my daughter served her mission there. So
yeah. So Bakersfield, I was there for, I moved up there in 1997. So right out of, I graduated high school, went up there to wrestle in college, up at the junior college. So wrestled there, and then met my now ex, was up there. I mean, and then, like I said, I don't know what, I mean, you want me to kind of give my background real quick, or what do you got? I mean, what do you guys?
Yeah. First part is all about you, so we get to know you.
So I moved up there wrestling, met my ex-wife, got married, had 3 kids. We were married for almost, well, on paper it was 16 years, but the last 3 was more of separation, and then finally, the divorce process started, and then it took here in California. It's a minimum of 6 months, no matter what, whether there's, even if you just, everything's amicable and you sign everything, dot it, mail it in, it's 6 months and 1 day. For some reason, it took about almost a year, but then it was finalized. And so I've been divorced and single for 10 years now. I decided to focus on my kids and do more of, just try to keep everything as normal as possible for them. And so that's where I'm at. And then I worked in the oil field business. I catered basically to oil field companies. I did all of their shopping for all their procurement from little tiny paper clips all the way up to $150,000, $200,000 pumps for their drilling rigs. So I mean, we handled whatever they wanted to, basically. Did that for a while. Then the oil fields tanked, and that was in 2008. And then got laid off, and then started working back again when it got better, and then got laid off again when it got worse, and then finally just got tired of oil field and said, I was unemployed. My mom got ill, so I said I'm the only one that's not working at the time. So I just kind of cashed out my 401k, moved back to my hometown, moved in with my parents. So yeah, I live with my parents, but I took care of my mom for the last 3 years, about 2.5 years, and then she passed away last July. So I kind of was taking care of her, and now I'm here with my dad, helping him out because he's 82. So my mom and dad were raising my niece and nephews. They had sole custody of them. So basically it's me, my son, my nephew and niece, and my dad, and then my older sister moved in with us too as well to kind of help out and do that stuff. So I don't live in the basement. I actually live upstairs.
Oh, good job.
So I have my own,
Good.
so I don't live in the basement.
That's what they call moving on up, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So I'm not, I've seen some of the guests that we've had on here, and some of them were kind of, like,
A few might live in the basement. Yes, it happens from time to time.
And then, Celeste, can you pronounce your last name for me one more time? How do you pronounce
That would be Miller.
Some people say Miller.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I had to do that. That was one of my first podcasts on here or with you guys when I heard that, and I was just like,
Oh, really? That is so funny.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, so I mean, that's it. I mean, I got 2 girls and a boy, and my girls are up in Utah with their, doing their own life. I mean, I usually talk to them almost every day, at least, 2 to 3 times a week. My oldest is married. She's 23.
Oh.
And so, she got married. She's been married 2 years now. She's in Provo. Actually, she just moved to Vineyard.
Are you a grandpa?
No, not yet. I'm hoping.
Hey, if she's married, it might not be long, my friend.
Well, they've been married a year, so my daughter. So my kids are unique. I got really blessed with my kids. My oldest is calendar. Everything is. She said, "Dad, I'm gonna go to BYU." This is when she was 5-6 years old. I'm going to BYU. I'm gonna go on a mission.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'll get married, and then I'll finish my schooling, and then I'll start my career, and then I'll have kids. So far, she got into BYU. She's graduating. Actually, she'll probably graduate next April, but what they're doing, the reason being, I guess they got this little weird thing with the schools, is she's doing a year of student teaching.
Oh.
So she's actually getting paid to student teach, but once she's done with that year of teaching, then she'll get her degree. So she's done with that. So she's done everything she said she was done. She went on a mission. So the funny thing is so your daughter went to Bakersfield on her mission.
Yep.
My daughter was in the great state of Texas.
Woohoo!
How funny.
Oh, you guys swapped.
She was in Houston South, though. She was in a Spanish speaking mission in Houston. So I mean, it's 5 hours south of you?
About 4, yeah. I love Houston. I used to live down there. I love Houston.
She was down there right when Hurricane Harvey happened. So talk about scariness.
Yeah.
I mean,
she the cleanup on that.
Yeah, that's all she did. That's what her mission was. They turned it into a service mission, and she mucked. They called it mucking.
Yep, mucking out houses. Absolutely.
All day long, every day. She just
And it
mucked.
was stinking hot because no one had air conditioners going, and you're in Houston. Really hot.
So, and then my middle daughter is 19. She was going to Logan originally. What was that?
I know.
I think we got somebody with their audio on.
I was looking. I can't see it. I thought I heard something, but I don't
It was-
see it.
yeah. But anyway, she's 19. She's out there in she was in Logan, getting her BSN. But now she is doing it remotely, but she lives in Bountiful because she got a job at a little hospital there as a CNA. So she's doing CNA. So she's in Bountiful. And then like I said, my oldest is in Vineyard, and then my son is here with me. So, and he's 16. So.
Oh, okay. So he's still in the home.
Yeah. So I've had my kids 90% of the time, all the time, the whole time. So I mean, their mother was a great provider. She was there financially for them, but she wasn't there physically or emotionally for them. The last, the last 3 years it's changed. She's been a little bit more, involved with them emotionally and everything, which is good. But yeah, so because she got married, like my divorce was final and she was married like not even a couple months later. So I don't want to speculate, but we can all speculate.
Right.
It was obviously that relationship was going on longer than the divorce. So anyways, but yeah, so I mean that's it in a nutshell. Like I said, I'm here. I coach football at a local high school, which is actually my alma mater.
Oh,
So
very cool. Head coach?
No, I'm the head JV coach, but
Okay.
I'm the defensive line coach for varsity. So I coach defensive line and offensive line, and then I coach wrestling, and then coach baseball as well.
Okay.
Wow,
very cool.
So that's what I do. And then I got me a little a mini farm. I'm a mini farmer is what I call it.
Is that also known as a garden?
No, actually.
Animals.
Okay, so I have an acre and a half of land, about to hopefully when I sell this other house, we'll be able to get another acre and a half or so. But I have 16 chickens, eight ducks, 2 geese, and a rooster, and a potbelly pig.
Ooh, I bet your neighbors love the rooster.
Oh no, they all got we're all like pretty distance apart. We're not like right on top of each other, but they all got roosters. Everybody
They all got their own roosters.
Yeah, I mean, I'm out in the area where everybody's got roosters or peacocks. I don't know if you guys have ever heard peacocks, but oh my gosh, they put roosters to shame with their noise.
Really?
Oh, it's a loud screeching. They're very beautiful, majestic birds, but they're just
loud.
Well, the males are. The females are actually very.
The males. That's where the term peacocking comes in. The males are got these real beautiful feathers, and the women are meh.
Yep, we're not looking very good in peacock form.
I
would be called a peahen. I wouldn't be a peacock. So
yeah, right, correct. Well, that's why I always reference when I say I tell everybody I'm more of the peahen of the world.
Yeah. Well, also Tara has got some new animals in her house, don't you?
Can you hear them?
No, but I was so excited when you posted them. So cute. Anyway.
So this is the mom, and the mom for some reason will not leave my lap.
Aww.
So if I want her to take care of her babies, I have to pull them all on my lap. It's ridiculous. I'm kind of over it.
I love little kittens. Anyway, didn't mean to sidetrack.
No, it's okay.
Good. Like I said, so that's I mean, that's what I do. Right now that rooster starts crowing at about 5:30 every morning, like clockwork. So
not my cup of tea. Nope.
But yeah, I think I got him from a friend of ours. So I wanted more chickens, and that was the evil trade. So I had a friend of mine said she had 6 chickens that she wanted to get rid of, but I had to take the rooster. So
you had to take him with you, with her, with the rest of them.
Yeah, so because I didn't want a rooster. Because the only reason why you need a rooster is if you plan on hatching your eggs. Because it doesn't take the rooster. The chickens don't need the rooster. They will lay eggs every day, regardless of a rooster being there or not.
Right. So do you consider yourself like a Dr. Dolittle?
No, I don't talk to them.
Are you sure?
They're not, well, I take that back. Only one is named. The rest of them, they're just ducks and chicken and rooster. But the potbelly pig is named because when we went and picked him up, he was a rescue. The high school kids were saying that his name was Hawk.
Hawk.
I'm like, Hawk, like ham hock? And they're like, yeah, like ham hock. And I'm like, well, he doesn't look like a ham hock. He looks more like a pork chop. And so when I said pork chop, he snorted at me. So I said it again and he snorted again. And when I said hawk, he just looked at me. And then I said pork chop, he snorted. So we changed his name to pork chop. So
So he chose his own name.
he chose his own name.
It's awesome.
And then
He realizes that it's like basically means eating a part of him.
I know.
Well, potbelly pigs are only eaten in like Vietnam or some, some island, but not here. They're not very good. So he's more of a pet, but I will be venturing out into more animals as I get things settled. I will be doing some meat chickens and some meat pigs.
So your chickens now are just for eggs?
Yeah, they're just eggs. Yeah, they're egg layers.
Do you sell the fertilizer?
Does your pig live in the house?
No.
No. Okay.
Oh, that would be fun. No. Okay, let me rephrase that. That'd be fun for like just a short amount of time, and then back away.
Yeah.
But I've seen the cute little ones that are like indoor pets. So
yeah, you better put a diaper on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of those things my kids would think is fantastic until like it makes a mess, and then guess who gets to clean it up?
Yeah.
So they want all the fun. I get all the work.
Hence why I said he was a rescue.
Right. Oh, did it come from inside the house? Someone had him in their house?
I'm not sure. They had them and they was little and nobody wanted them no more. And so the school took them over and so they had too many. And so they asked if anyone would take them. And so I was nice enough to take them.
Add it to your collection.
So I know I'm breaking protocol here. I made a huge, when I came, I didn't grab something to drink. So I'm going to pause because I need me to grab something to drink real quick.
Okay, go grab a drink real quick.
We will talk to Tara about her cute little kittens.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. I didn't know Jared was so much into sports. For some reason, I just kind of always pictured him from the chat, from the after party show, as kind of more of a mountain man. He's always been hilarious and fun, but
Coach.
It's because you probably were like, he's a big fat guy, so you just assumed I wasn't athletic.
Well, I mean, you can't really tell that much on Zoom, but you know,
I'm only 275, so I'm not really that fat.
Well, how tall are you?
5'10" 3/4, and I'm gonna claim that 3/4 because my mom is 5'1" and my dad was 5'2". So
Ooh,
what weight class did you wrestle in high school?
171.
Okay.
Did you play on football, like on the offensive or defensive line?
I was a defensive end. I was a defensive end, but I was really strong. So I was 100 in high school. I wrestled 171, but I only weighed 165. I walked around at 165, but I benched over almost 300 pounds. So I was very because you had to be strong in the area where I grew up. Otherwise, you'd get your butt kicked. Oh. I grew up in a rough area.
Oh.
Well, gotta do what you gotta do, right?
Plus, I'm 7 of 10 kids, so I have 4 older siblings.
How many sisters?
Four older brothers. I have 3 sisters, so 7 boys, 3 girls.
Oh, those poor girls.
So I'm the 5th of 7 boys, but the 7th of 10.
Oh.
You weren't fighting for the bathroom a whole lot if you only had 3 sisters. That's not the case. But
no, but
you probably had brothers that were always giving you.
Yeah, and then until I got taller than them, then then I started getting I got the first pair of jeans. At first I got hand-me-downs when I was real little, but once I got taller, I got the new jeans. They got the old ones because I couldn't be walking around in high waters, so they got to choose my length. So
was your family active growing up?
Oh yes. My mom and dad were always active. I've always been active. There's a little part where as soon as I turned 18, I kind of decided to leave the house and go up and wrestle, and that's where I met my ex. So I met her. We got married in March of 98, and my daughter was born in April of 98.
Oh.
So she was like actually almost a honeymoon baby. So
Wow.
so yeah.
Wait. You got married in March of 98 and your baby was born in April of 98?
Yeah.
So the
A month
baby
later?
was conceived before they
Oh,
got
okay.
married.
Okay. I
Celeste.
was
Come on, Celeste.
I'm sorry.
Do the math.
Sometimes, Celeste, a mommy and a daddy get together before the wedding.
I just wanted to make sure I had that right. I'm sorry.
No,
Did not
she was born at 1 month, then she is now 23. So she's
I thought maybe you said the wrong year. I thought I was just making sure. I apologize. Anyway.
she was blaming that California brain on. She's like, he's California.
He is
He's
from
not very
California,
bright.
so maybe his addition isn't quite right.
Maybe he said the wrong year. Or my ex was tricking me.
Right.
Now, this is your oldest that's married and is like on a
Yeah.
calendar for everything, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what is her calendar for having her first child? Like, when can we expect you to be a grandpa?
Probably within, because she wanted to her whole little thing was she wanted to get started in her career prior to having her first child. So this is her going to be her first year teaching coming up this next fall. So probably I'll be a grandpa within a year. Unless my younger one marries the guy she's dating. He has 2 kids, so then I'll take those as my grandkids. I'm not,
Right.
I'm not going to be one of those guys that says, oh, those are, I'm a little different. I mean, those are, they're not they won't be my biological grandkids, but I won't call them my step grandkids. They'll be my grandkids. So
That's awesome.
Very
That's
cool.
great.
I don't like the name step. I always think that's so horrible when people introduce kids and say, this is my step kid.
I think it depends on like
They
what
can call me stepdad. I'll let them call me stepdad.
Yeah.
I'll never call them step kid because it just sounds horrible.
I was gonna say, I think it depends on how the kids are comfortable, right? So
Yeah.
if they would prefer you to say step kid because they want to make sure there's a separation for their dad, then that's fine.
Yeah, well, I'll let them make that decision.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah.
So how long were you married then? You've been divorced for 10 years. I don't know how your age, so I'm kind of trying to spitball the math.
I'm 44.
44, okay.
So it on paper it was because it was 15 years.
Okay.
But that was because but like I said, like the last almost 2 to 3 years was like, so she decided she didn't want to be married after like 13, 14 years. And then it took about a year for everything to be finalized. And so about, like I said, it was right at 15 years, I guess, is what you can say. Because that's what the legal, that's what the little stamp of the seal when they,
So now she was not a member. Is that?
She was a convert. She converted. So I moved up to Bakersfield to go wrestle in college. I was working at 24 Hour Fitness. I happened to come into work a little early one day, and I worked the graveyard shift, and I met her, and we she
was working out there, or she worked?
She was working out, and she was on her way out as I was on my way in. She was, just, it's kind of a funny story. So she was actually dating one of my coworkers' friends, but her coworker, she was all upset because her boyfriend at the time, she gave him a present that he didn't find humorous, and so he broke up with her and dumped her right there because it was like one of those, like she said, it was a little gift, and it said, this is something that is from me deep inside, and it's a part of me, and I want you to have it. And it was a fake piece of poop. Like she was just playing, like it was an April Fool's joke, and he didn't find it funny at all. So
he dumped her right there because of that.
Yeah, he so she was kind of upset, and so I just kind of cracked a joke, and we started chit chatting, and then a couple months later we started dating, and then a couple months later more we went to Raging Waters, and me being a college student, I saw the sign and it said expecting mothers get a discount. And so I said, well, how far do they have to be expecting? And the lady said, they just have to be expecting. And then so I said, well, woman is expecting to be pregnant eventually, right? So the lady gave me a discount. Well, a little below a month later, or actually a couple months later, she came to my house and said, hey, I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
So,
well,
so
okay,
yeah.
So she joined the church after you guys were married, I'm guessing,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yes.
How long after you guys were married before she joined?
So we got married in 98. She joined in, I think it was 2002 or 3, maybe. I'm horrible with that part. I know everything else, but the dates I'm horrible. I think it was 2003. I think it was is when she got sealed. When we got sealed, I kind of forget about that one.
So you guys, so she got baptized, and your whole family went and got sealed together. Okay, awesome. Now, did she stay active in the church through the divorce and everything?
No.
Okay.
No.
So she's kind of not really with the church anymore. But your girls, it sound like, or at least your daughter is away.
All three of my kids have stayed active throughout the whole ordeal.
Oh, that's awesome.
So when we were going through the process, so like I said, she decided to leave, but at that time we weren't sure what was going on, and so my kids didn't really want me to announce it to nobody, so I didn't really let nobody, nobody knew that anything was going on that first, and so until the divorce was actually finalized is when we kind of really, because I just kind of, my kids were they were young, they didn't want, they were kind of like, not really wanting, and nobody really needed to know every aspect of my life. I mean, the bishop knew,
of course,
because I talked to him, but like I wasn't sure, because I mean, obviously at first when she decided she needed to go find herself, she swore up and down and promised she wasn't leaving because of another man. So me, I was like, okay, well, I'll take your word for it. I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt. And then almost, like I said, that first year was kind of going back and forth, and then finally I got served with divorce papers. And I'm like, so I called her up. I'm like, what's going on with this? And she's like, I figured we need to split our way, split ways and go our separate ways. I need to go find myself. And I said, are you dating someone? I mean, and she's no, and then all of a sudden I find out she has an apartment, like, because first she was living with her cousin. Then I found out she had an apartment that she was kind of like, didn't tell anyone about. And then the kid said, oh yeah. This guy is who she is now married to, is her roommate, and they were coworkers. So he was a roommate at first, and then all of a sudden, when the divorce she filed for divorce, then they were boyfriend girlfriend, and then when the divorce was actually done, then they got married. So it was just kind of one of those where we didn't let anyone know, because we didn't know what was going on. I didn't really know what was going on, and then. When it finally was done, then I kind of let everybody in. So like, I mean, I went to church every single Sunday. I just kind of, at that time, I just kind of rolled with it. It was more of just the motions. I was going with the motions, so like people that had no clue what was going on. And it just kind of, just like my kids, I focused on my kids. I made sure my kids were taken care of. I stayed in my house. She left, basically the only thing she took was the clothes on her back. I mean, she left everything. Like, I mean, I have the memory books of all the kids. She for years collected angels. I have those in a box that I actually ended up gifting to my daughters, so that way they can see what they want to do with them, because she's like, I didn't know what she wanted. I gave the kids, told them, hey, here's, because like, my thing is like a lot of people, and this is where I differ from a lot of people, I guess, is the divorce to me is an ending of just a marriage. It's not ending of the family unit. It changes the dynamics of the family unit, but it's a divorce. It's an ending of a marriage. So just because we couldn't work as a married couple does not mean we're not a family still. She will always be and is the mother of my kids. I will and always am the father. So no matter what happens, whether I get remarried, she got remarried, we are still the parents, and the kids are still our kids. So,
You know that view can be controversial. Just
oh, probably so. Probably. I mean, if you want, I mean, I can even get into more where it really gets controversial. So
no, I agree with it, but just
so go ahead.
yesterday I think I posted something on my personal Facebook page, and it was this little GIF or meme or whatever of this little girl playing soccer, and then next to her were her mom and dad, and they were wearing.
I think I saw that.
And then next to them it was stepmom, stepdad, right? And I could not believe how many people had issues with that. I mean, I was totally surprised. And I got a lot of private messages, people going, yeah, that's just sending the wrong signal to your kids. I'm like,
no, because like I said, I mean, if you take that approach of it, because I mean, what is a divorce? What's the definition of a divorce?
Right. It dissolves the marriage, right?
Right. So I mean, it doesn't do, I mean, it doesn't change the fact that you were still mom and dad. Now, I mean, and I think somebody posted, I think it was in our group, posted the single mother, single fathers, Father Day, that same is another. Yep. But I mean, if somebody wants to claim that they are also the father and they're the mother, who cares? Let them celebrate it. Come on, really? I mean, Father's Day is yes, it's a great day to recognize, but I mean, come on, really? I mean, if you're a real father, you're a father every single day, and your kids are giving you all of that stuff. And same with the mother. I mean, it's your, why does one certain day matter that much to where you're going to want to start fighting people over Father's Day for a single mother claiming that she's a father also? I mean, come on. I mean, I don't know.
Okay, like I know this is a totally another topic, but quick, short answer. Do you feel a mother can be a father also?
Absolutely not, but she can play the role. I mean, how can she be a father?
Right. Okay.
So growing up, maybe this is kind of goes back into growing up. We didn't have gender roles. We didn't have your typical gender roles, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense.
I mean, we didn't have those. Like in your family?
In my family growing up, there were 7 boys, 3 girls.
Okay.
It was not like in your normal typical home. Boys do the outside chores, girls do the dishes and the laundry, and the boys take out the trash, the boys mow, the dad works and the mom stays home. My mom worked, my dad worked, my mom worked between each one of, she took time off a little bit between each of us kids. She was a school teacher. She taught from 1964 until she retired 13 years ago, or 14 years ago. And then she just passed, this last July. So I mean, we didn't have the normal gender roles. Like a lot of people, and if anyone wants to, my ex told me I can give you her phone number and you can call and verify any of the stuff that I'm saying is true. I'm not just saying it. But
I'm sure everybody's going to want to look that up and verify. Let's fact check you and see.
No, because I don't want people to think that I'm just kind of toot my own horn. But when I got off work, she got off work a little bit later. I did all the food prep. I got the dinner ready. I got the kids fed, washed up. Especially if she was going to be working a little bit later, got them all ready. So that way, all she had to do is read them a bedtime story and tuck them into bed. In the middle of the night, when the kids, especially if they weren't, when she wasn't breastfeeding anymore, if she had work or I had work, I mean, I was a night owl anyways. So I would get up in the middle of the night, get the bottle ready, pop the bottle in, change the diaper, let her sleep. Or even when she was breastfeeding, I would go get the kid, get him out of bed, throw him on her teat, then wait till the baby done feeding, burp him, go put him back. So when
you say throw it on her teat, it sounds like you're like putting her on a cow or something like that.
He's just trying to be nice.
I get you. It just Take me minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, but yeah, so I mean, so I, it was kind of funny because I used to get teased by neighbors. They would be like, their husbands would be like, dude, you need to chill. And I'm like, why? They're like, well, my wife comes over and then she comes home and says, why can't you be more like Jared? He's taking care of the kids. He's changing, he's bathing the kids, and he's doing diaper duty. And so I had a lot of guy friends and guy neighbors that were always like, dude, come on. But that's just, I mean, my dad worked. He'd come home, play with us kids, do stuff. I mean, there was no specific, like, this is your job. It was our job. We tag team. If she got home early, she would do the same.
That's great. I think that's important. Like, I try to teach all my kids to do all different types of chores and things. And I think it's important because, like, my son needs to know how to do laundry.
Yep.
He needs to know how to wash dishes. He needs to know how to clean a bathroom.
Needs to know how to cook.
So I don't care if he's a man. He needs to know how to clean the house. And my same with my girls. My oldest daughter used to mow the lawn and do those type of things, just because it's important to know how to be both sides, do it all. So good idea.
All right. So did we miss any cool questions in the little comments or no? I haven't been paying attention. I just saw
you're good. You're good.
It's like 32 messages or something. So
you're good. So did I miss it somewhere? What did your dad do for work during all this?
My dad was a department store manager.
Okay. So your mom and your dad were both, it sounds like your whole family was busy, but it was kind of all hands on deck.
Correct.
Right? Like everybody's chipping in. We're all doing this together. I think that's awesome. I think that
there was an ongoing joke with my family. Like for me, I always said that I had 7 moms and 7 dads because, I had 6 older siblings, or sorry, I can't even, whatever number it adds up to, including my mom. My brothers and sisters took on those roles. We always knew that when we would go, like when then I had younger siblings, we just knew that we had to take on those roles of, hey, helping out and doing stuff because mom and dad are both working.
Yeah.
So we kind of stepped in and took those roles, So
So I want to go back just for a second to kind of your marriage situation. So you guys were married for 15 years, essentially. And there came a point towards the end, it sounds like you guys were separated. Am I correct in that, for like a year before suddenly the divorce papers rolled up?
Yeah.
So when she comes to you and says like, hey, I'm just not feeling it, let's separate. Was this out of left field, or was this kind of like you guys had already been struggling, seeing a counselor sort of thing? And it's just.
No, I was completely blindsided.
Okay.
Oh.
It was one of the only events other than the passing of my mother that rocked me to my core.
So you did not see that coming at all?
No. And everything in our relationship, of course there's once in a blue moon, there'd be bickering, I don't call it fighting. We kind of bickered. There's fights that people have as married couples, but ours was just a little like, oh, I need you to really do, or, hey, I asked you to do this and you didn't do this, bickering, not real fights. There was no, we never got into, screaming.
No throwing things at each other.
Nothing. No fights. She just, like I said, I kind of started like that first year. I started seeing stuff when she, like, because so that first year when we got separated, she was kind of working a lot, and then she got really involved into. Hold on, sorry, I got one of the kids is knocking on. No, I'm busy. I told you.
I love it.
Sorry, he's 4 years old.
Tell him to just take the baby and put it on the teat, and it'll be okay. So, anyways,
that was one of the my I don't even know what you would call him. I call him a nephew now because it's my sister is fostering him, so he just he would have sat there if I didn't answer it. He would have knocked literally for an hour. He would have just sat there and just kept knocking.
That's okay. You're totally fine.
So, but yeah. So I know people sit there and they're like, man, you didn't, everything was going great. There was nothing. We were still sexually active. we would go places. I mean, before I started working in the oil fields, our first couple years of marriage, we actually worked for the same company. So our date nights, basically, we would go out to dinner and a movie, and then go shopping, and then come home. So we had, we had date nights. We had our time. We made sure every anniversary we went out of town and spent time together. So like when it all was going down, it just like totally floored me. I was like still to this day, I finally started to, within the last, 4 years or so, just kind of stopped trying to figure out why. But it really, I think it really played with my mind, because I'm like, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Where did I go wrong? And why did I not recognize it? How did I not recognize it?
Well, and Jared, it sounds like you were kind of raised the way that I was raised as well. I mean, when I got divorced, it came out of left field too, because in my family, it was kind of a non-issue. It didn't matter how, if you were getting along bad, like people had bad times, people had good times, but you worked it out.
Yes.
And so anything that goes wrong, it really does. It hits you out of left field if you've got that kind of personality where you stick with it. And it sounds like that's how you were raised.
Yeah. Well, and then for her, what kind of finally started, I guess I can go back a little bit. The beginning of our relationship, she came out of a very abusive relationship.
With the guy who couldn't take a joke?
No, this was I guess in high school. She kind of after high school, from what I guess I won't give too much of her information out, just because in respect for her. Sure. I don't think anybody knows her, but if they end up finding, I just don't want, especially being that this is recording. Right. So she was in high school, and she had a high school boyfriend, and he basically beat the tar out of her one day at school. And so there's a bunch of other stuff that happened. She got out of that relationship, and then she dated a couple different dudes, and then met me. And and her dad kind of did the same thing to her mother when she was 5. He beat the crap out of her mom, and then left. And then her mom had boyfriends that were in and out of her life growing up. So I think it was just normal for her. Talking to her now, and this kind of goes into the topic now of what our topic is the forgiveness part. I forgave her fairly quickly, because I needed it for myself to forgive her, because I couldn't have the hatred or the negativity in my life. And I kind of just chalked it up to, we were so amicable. We're like, when we went to the kids, back to school night, or, parent teacher conferences, they had no clue that we're divorced. I never treated her poorly. I never spoke out of her name ever. I never called her out of her name, even, when everything was said and done. So like, we can sit here, and now it kind of changes, because it's funny. Everybody's like, they always know when her husband's around, because then she like doesn't come nowhere near my side of like if we're watching my kids play sports, she doesn't come to my side of where I'm sitting at. But if he's not around, then she comes and hangs out with my daughter, and she'll come and say, hey, how's everything going? So, that's her baggage that she's got to worry about. But where was I going? Sorry. I go off on topic sometimes. Basically, I just chalk it up to, she was always in the beginning saying that she, she's never dated nice guys. And I used to I don't like to call myself a nice guy, because then I sound like that cliche, like I'm a nice guy. Nice guys don't really call themselves nice guys unless they're, I don't know. But she just, I think she self-sabotaged herself. And she, later on, after a couple of years of being divorced, we were able to talk, and basically that's what she said. She never thought that she deserved this kind of happiness. She never really wanted a family, because she didn't understand, the family dynamics. It was always broken home for her. And so she never went to church before. And so when I met her, it was kind of funny, because I was like, hey, by the way, I'm LDS. And she's like, what's LDS? I said, Mormon. And she's like, what's that? And I'm like, and so in her mind, she thought I was like Pentecostal. So she's like, oh, great. So I'm going to have to grow my hair long and wear skirts all the time. And I'm like, no. And I said, so I told
we
her,
don't believe in technology. We drive buggies.
So
And
I told her, that I'm LDS and that's what I want to, if it's okay with her, I would like to raise my daughter LDS. This was before my daughter was born. And she said, that's fine. I don't have any religion. And I said, you're more than welcome to, I said, if you want to know about the church, you need to ask. And I said, and I will tell you everything you need to know. And if you want to meet with the missionaries, that's all. So I left everything up to her. I didn't, I probably should go back a little bit even further. I didn't propose to her because I didn't want her to think that I was only proposing because she was pregnant. So after we found out she was pregnant on Christmas Eve, she came out with her belly, and she lifted up her shirt and showed off her belly, and it had a ring taped to her belly button. And it said, "Will you marry us?"
Oh.
So I said, yes, and so we ended up getting married. But I didn't want to be, I had feelings for her, of course. But I didn't want to, we were with each other for a while. We got married when she was 8 months pregnant, not almost 9 months pregnant. But I didn't want to, and it was a quick wedding. And so I just didn't want her to think that that's the only reason why I was marrying her. I wanted her to understand that if I ever married her, it was because I truly loved her. And so that was hard. It was hard for my family. Because we were LDS, every single one of my brothers and my sisters, except for one, my youngest sister, served missions. I'm the only one that did not. So of course it was kind of hard for my parents. And then especially, coming to them and saying, hey, meet my ex or meet, I don't want to say her name, but
Nope.
Anyways, here she is. Oh, by the way, she's pregnant. We're getting married in March.
Yeah, that's got to be tough. But I don't know. That's
so that's where it was at. And so, like I said, and then one day she happened to be over at a friend of ours' house because my sister-in-law came into town. She grew up in the town up in Bakersfield where I ended up moving. And it was kind of funny because she happened to be in town. And so we had mutual friends and they wanted to meet. So my ex went over there and the missionaries were walking down the street. And so she's like, hey, those are missionaries. And so my sister-in-law and her friend were like, yeah, those are missionaries. And she's like, I really need to schedule an appointment with those guys. And so they met with them. She talked. So when they started having, she started having missionaries discussions. She decided to get, baptized. And then, so she decided to get baptized. And so we went to church, we held callings together. And then we decided that, after my daughter, so actually, it was 2004 was when we got sealed. So, cause my youngest was born, my middle daughter was born in 2004. So we got sealed in 2004. And so that's where we were at. And then, like I said, it came out of left field, man. I had, and she'll tell it because everybody says it takes two. And I'm still, that I think was a lot of the problem why I didn't get into dating right away. I'm kind of, I've always been open to it, but I never really pushed into it because it was like, I need to find out what's, I don't want this to repeat, right. And because she would always say it had nothing to do with you. It was me. It was all me.
So Jared, okay, I gotta jump in here a little bit. There's a lot to unpack. So
I know. I told you guys I'm like everywhere.
You're good.
It's good. Okay. It's all right. So one thing that it just keeps coming to mind as you're talking. So her mom was in an abusive situation with her dad growing up. She was abused in high school. Clearly, as you said, it caused some problems when you guys were together because you were not abusive. So is she, or has she been in an abusive relationship since you?
He's not physically, but
Okay.
my kids have told me that he does, he calls her stupid and says, "Oh, you're dumb and you're stupid and how you're crazy. You're so," so my kids, cause my son, especially, it's really hard for him cause he wants to defend his mom, but cause I've always taught my kids, they don't have to respect him, but they'll be respectful. So I don't make them, I tell him, he's he is not, he does not have to be your role model, but you will not be disrespectful to him.
Right.
So
and by him, you mean this is the same guy that she
yes,
married right after? They're still together.
yeah,
Okay. All right.
but it's a very toxic, unfortunately, I feel for her because it's very toxic. My kids, because she used to call me up and I told her, I told her, I said, I can't know this stuff no more. I go, it's a slap in my face. I'm like, I can't be your phone call when things are going bad. It's not fair to me and it's not fair to the kids. It's not fair to my ex. And so I had to put a stop to, because it was like this from almost day one. My daughter came to me. This was like right before she went on her mission, and she was like, "Dad, I don't feel right about being over there all the time. It's just a negative feeling." And I said, "What's going?" So I don't like to pry, but I needed to pry because my daughter was coming to me, and so I said, "What's going on?" She goes, "Well, I just don't get it because I don't see why Mom went for him when she had you. You were a great father, a great husband." And she goes, "I don't get it." And she said,
Now, is that because they're toxic, or is that just simply
yeah,
a child wishing that?
no,
Obviously she's going to be on your side, right?
right. So I dove into it a little bit more. I like I said, I had to pry more because it was something weird that she was saying. And I said, "Why? What's going on?" And she's like, "Well, he told me one day," because she was at that dating age and she was dating a guy, and she's like, the guy was completely different. Once I started like actually dating him, he started showing this other side of him. And so he told her, "Well, that's what us guys do. We pretend we're someone else until we get the girl to fall in love with us, and then we let our true colors come out." And so I'm like, how dare you taint my kid's image of how a marriage or how men, it just
That's
really
not what guys do. That's what narcissists do. Just
Correct.
to clarify that.
Correct. So I had to get involved. And this was one of the only times that I kind of basically, I said, "Look," and then he was always teasing my daughter. Like when she'd have a boyfriend, he would go, "So who's the girlfriend?" And it's like, I'm okay, whatever. If you want to be, if you're gay, you're not gay, whatever. That's not my issue. But when the kid says, "Knock it off," you should knock it off. So basically I had to kind of call him up and say, "Look, if you don't stop talking to my kids and filling their head with this negativity and then sitting there calling my daughter, saying she's a lesbian and she's telling you that it's not funny and she doesn't like it, then there's going to be problems." Then I will show up at that door. And I said, "And it will not be fun." So I had to tell this to because he wouldn't get on the phone. So I had to tell this to my ex. And I said, don't take my kindness as a weakness. Um, I, when I was younger, I was a fighter. I had to prove myself. I grew up in a predominantly black high school. And so I got a lot of friends that, basically when you're one of the white kids, they like to call what's a punk move. They want to see who's how much they can get away with messing with you. And so I had to fight a lot, to prove that I was tough enough to be friends with the group of friends that I was with, So he knew this, and I basically, and my ex knew this. So I had to really get stern and almost threaten him with violence. And then you come over here, I'm going to call the cops. And I'm like, whatever. My kids know I have, and still to this day, I got a little stash of what I call bail money. Because my record's clean, so I'm pretty sure I'll get out on a fairly cheap bail. So
depends how severe the crime, I guess, right?
But anyway.
Jared, you'd mentioned something, and my mom had this conversation with me after my divorce. And I see it on the boards all the time too, when people tell you what they want. I want this, I want that, I want this. And her question after my divorce was, okay, and then what are you going to do with it? Like, if that's not your comfort level, like, okay, so you get it, all this stuff, now you're married to the prophet's son or whatever, these big dreams and hopes and stuff. But then what are you going to do once you have it? Because if you're that uncomfortable, really a marriage really shouldn't be your learning ground as far as your lifestyle. You should go into a marriage with a little bit of a lifestyle already. And then what happens is you try so hard to fit in to this new relationship that then you get divorced, and then you just revert back to what you're used to, which sounds exactly like what your ex did.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what she did. I mean, she still to this day, like, because my kids, I talk to them, I've always been open. I mean, so like with my kids, I didn't give them all of the details, but if they asked, I was honest. Like, their mom did not want to tell them that she was in a relationship. She hid it from them. She did not want to tell them that she no longer loved their dad. She hid that from them. And then when she got married, she was still telling the kids, well, I don't really love him. We just did it because he needs insurance. It's like just she would just always kind of make it seem like it's not really important. And so when the kids would come to me, only when they asked, I wasn't going to lie, because my thought process on this whole thing is, if I can't tell my kids the truth and they find out the truth, then they're never going to believe me and they're never going to trust me. If I can't, let them with the little small things, how am I going to help them with the big things when things more, so and it's kind of funny because go on a little story of lies. My oldest daughter, she's very meticulous, and she found this was when my son was still, let's see, my oldest, they're all, it's kind of fun. They're 3 years apart. So my son is 16, then my middle one's 19, and then the next one is 23, or she'll be, yeah. And then, so anyways, they found receipts of their Christmas presents because we kept them. And she was like, Dad, you said you would never lie, but I found these receipts. And I go, what are you talking about? She goes, you said that Santa Claus was real. And I'm like, he is. And she's like, no, I found these receipts. And I said, okay, well, who's Santa Claus then? And she goes, you and Mom. And I said, we're real, right?
There you go.
And so
that is such a good way to put it.
So I said, so technically we didn't lie. I didn't lie. I said, we twisted the reality. We kind of skewed the truth. We skewed reality, but we didn't lie. So, that's, kind of what we do as parents. We sometimes have to, skew, but I won't lie to my kids. I refuse to lie. That's the one thing I despise the most and that's more, when people talk about deal breakers is the lying. I mean, if you're going to lie about little, small, trivial things, how are you going to not lie when it's something that's, bigger? And so.
Yeah. So since you're so open with your kids, and since our topic is forgiveness, have you had to help them forgive their mom for, I don't know. Yeah. I'm assuming right here. I don't know. Maybe.
So my oldest she's a people pleaser. So she never was really angry. I mean, she was upset, but she was older. She got a lot of the alone time. She had her grandma. So this is so when my ex-wife left, when we were married, we lived in a smaller home. Then we got it was going to be our forever home. We built it with a mother-in-law quarter attached to the back half of the house. So my ex-mother-in-law lived with us because she was helping raise our kids because we were both working and we wanted someone. So she quit her job and was raising my kids, helping raise my kids. I mean, she basically was there from the hours that we, weren't at when I was at work, and then I would come home. So she was there a lot. And then when my ex decided to leave, she said to my mother-in-law, she said, "Hey, I'm leaving. So whatever Jared wants to do, good luck. I'm out." And so I couldn't kick her out because at the end of the day, that's the kid's grandma. All She's right. Still their grandparent. So when when people would say, "Oh, your mother lives with you," and then I'd have to explain, "No, it's my mother-in-law," they really didn't understand that, and it caused a lot of, it's kind of weird, how are you gonna, people like, well, how are you gonna go date when you have your ex-mother-in-law living with you? Because people.
You just explain, right? It just shows you.
Some people thought it was very weird. They thought it was very odd that I kept. But so I tease and say I got my ex-in-laws in the divorce. They were.
That's awesome.
They were left to me in the divorce decree. So.
Yeah.
So Jared, kind of going into tonight's topic, it's great. We've gotten to know you quite a bit. There's a lot. I feel like we could just keep going on and on.
Oh, yeah. And I'm an open book. So, I mean, like I said, anybody wants to ask whatever they want.
Right.
I'm not,
Sure. You're not holding back. That's
You're not shy about that. It's
right.
Good.
So interestingly, usually when we pick these topics, there's a discussion around it. Okay, what kind of fits this guest that we're going to have on? What can we discuss with them that would be something that would be, I don't know, something that's a topic that they can relate to somehow. And oftentimes we'll reach out to the guests and say, what kind of topic what's like forefront on your mind as far as dating goes? And when we reach out to you, the one thing that popped up almost instantly was forgiveness.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about why you chose discussing forgiveness before we get into the topic. Why?
Well, just because it's kind of the last couple of weeks. And then, I finally, because my ex called me up one day and she said, this was probably about 2 months ago. She goes, "You must really hate me." And I'm like, funny thing is I forgave you a long time ago. And she's like, "How can you forgive me?" And I said, you really did screw up my plan. I didn't expect to be where I'm at this age. I said, and you really, basically, she didn't understand how I can forgive her. And I said, I didn't forgive you for you. I forgave you for me and the kids, because when she left, there was about 1.5 to 2 years when the divorce was final that I just my door was always open. My bedroom door was always open. But as soon as I would go to work, I'd get up in the morning, get the kids ready, drop them off at school, go to work, chase drilling rigs all day long, drop off stuff. As soon as I'd get home, go to whatever practice or take the kids to whatever practice. But as soon as I was able to get home and the kids were settled, I'd go in my room and I'd leave the door open, but I'd go in my room and just be in the dark. And, the kids were like, "Hey, can we go do this? Here, yeah, there's money in the wallet. See if grandma will take you, drop you off, or go whatever. Here's money. Here's, because at that time, I just kind of felt like, I didn't want to be out. Like they wanted to go to the high school football game. Man, last place I wanted to be was at the high school football game, because even though Bakersfield's a big town, it's a small area, and all of our friends would be like, because expect,
where's your wife, sort of thing.
Yeah. Or and so it was difficult. It was very difficult. So I just didn't really, or like, "Hey, I saw your wife and your new," and it's like, or we run into him there. And it's like, just for a while there, I wanted to just punch him in his face, because this is the other dynamic to the whole thing. And why I had to do it was because, so he was her coworker. They worked together. He was married. I was, we were married. We became like couple friends. You know how like you find those couple friends where you guys hang out. We played co-ed softball league. We were both on a co-ed softball team. He wasn't a member, but he'd come and play church ball with me. So he became one of my friends. I let him into my home. I fed his kids. I fed his ex-wife now. I fed him. They came, he'd call up and he'd be upset, and I took him in, I consoled him several times on his marital problems, and I just kind of brought him into my circle.
Were they LDS?
Huh?
Were
No,
they LDS?
no.
Okay.
No, so I brought him into my home, and allowed him to be there more, because I felt, like he needed, that's what we do. I mean, we're supposed to be Christ-like to everybody, regardless of their religious beliefs, and we've met a common ground. And so I would take him with me, and I introduced him to a lot of my, non-LDS friends and even LDS friends. And he became a part of my circle. And then,
kind of create that trust.
5 years into it, he completely.
Well, betrayal, I think, is one of the hardest things to kind of get past, especially in your scenario where you didn't even see it coming. I know that can be a massive challenge. And so I think that forgiveness for something like that is hard to come to, right? But it seemed like when I was talking to you about it that you had pretty much kind of figured it out. You'd figured out how to let go of the pain and the anger, despite the fact that,
because it was making me miserable. And she slept fine at night. I mean, it's kind of cliche because, like they talk about even in church, like last week or this Sunday, was it the title was forgiveness, finding forgiveness. And it was just kind of like, I was miserable. I would snap I never snapped at my kids. My kids would be like, Dad, I catch myself snapping at them and like, taking it out on them, not really taking it out on them, but like little things like, you guys need to, and they're like, look at me like, Dad, you never, and all this time you've never yelled at us, but now you're divorced. Now you're yelling at us. Why are you yelling at, cause I never, ever did it. I was not acting like my normal self. So the only thing I can figure out is I had this hatred in my heart. Cause I was hating her for a while. I mean, I hated her. I mean, and hate is such a hard and ugly thing, but so I had to forgive her for me. And as chintzy or wussy or whatever you want to call it, I had to do it for me. And that's where I'm at.
So describe to me what that looks like. I mean, it's real easy to say like, well, just one day I decided to forgive her. But how did you forgive her? Like, I mean, where did you find that peace? What does it look like to you to forgive somebody?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's not just a cut and dry, it's an everyday thing.
It's a process.
I'm constantly forgiving her because there's different. I mean, right? I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I spent most of my young adulthood with her. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was 21, got married at 21, was with her till, for 15 years. So we grew up basically. We grew up together. I mean, even though I was already out of my home, you're not truly grown up when you're 18, 19, 20 years old. You're still finding yourself. So
I'm still finding myself. So I don't know when that process ends. Let me know once you get there.
I don't. Yeah, we'll do the same. But I'm constantly having to, because there's like different things, like stuff would come up and so moving down here to my parents' home, I basically had everything in storage. So I moved, and I'm not trying to, like I said, toot my own horn, but it was a 3,010 square foot home that I moved into a 800 square foot bedroom.
Yeah.
I got stuff in storage. I'm afraid to show you. I got boxes. It's probably
You don't need to show us. You're good.
I mean, I got boxes of papers that I'm still kind of going through, trying to, because I just threw everything, like when my mom got ill. So basically what happened is, why I moved back down to my hometown, is my mom had a pulmonary embolism. I was the only one not working, and so I had to move, and so everything went in storage. So except for stuff that I needed access to a lot, and so going through some of this stuff, trying to declutter and downsize, you find stuff like, you find just different things that you've had in storage, and it kind of brings back up some of that. So you have to kind of remind yourself to, hey, it's done. It's not you got to let it go. So I'm constantly forgiving her. So it's a process. I don't think you're ever done forgiving someone. I wish I could forgive and forget, but then I'd be kind of silly to really forget, I guess. I mean, we're supposed to, I don't think we're ever really supposed to forgive and forget. We're supposed to forgive and not try to punish, but we need to remember it, because I definitely don't want to repeat,
Yeah, you want to learn from it and also have safe boundaries from it. I think that, and someone in the chat this last couple of days have been kind of talking about forgiveness on our page and or in the group, and someone had pointed out that forgiveness doesn't mean the hurt goes away. Forgiveness doesn't mean that the past has changed.
Right.
It's still there. It's still part of your story. It's still maybe hurts at times or triggers something at certain moments in times, or hurts or makes you sad, whatever. Like all of those things can still be intact, and you can still have forgiven the person.
Yeah.
Forgiveness doesn't take all that away, but I think over time the other aspects might fade.
Right.
You can still forgive and still feel sad and hurt and angry.
Yeah. Because I mean, you definitely don't want to validate and say, hey, I forgive you, go ahead and do it again. That's definitely not what I'm saying is, hey, I forgive you, go ahead and continue treating me like crap. But it's you validate, hey, you wronged me, but I'm going to change how I deal with you from here on out.
Yeah, because if someone stole 10 grand from your house, you can forgive them, but the next time they're at your house, it doesn't mean you just ignore that. Like you got to learn from the experience.
But if they steal 10 grand from the house, they're probably not going to be back in the house. They might be able to come to the porch, but I'm definitely not going to.
So right, my point is you put up a boundary. It doesn't mean you hate them or are mean to them or whatever, but you do have to learn from the experience, and you do have to have different boundaries. So you can't totally forget, or else you learn what you're trying to benefit from it. So.
Yeah, I would say, and Terry, you can back me up a little bit on this as well, but I think that you're probably at the beginning having more bad days than good days when it comes to this forgiving process. Like there are days where you're like, okay, I forgive you and I feel at peace with it. And there are days where you're like, I still kind of feel that sting right now. And even though I'm trying to forgive you, it's harder today. And then as time goes on, maybe it's more easier days and less of the painful days, if that makes sense. Because I can relate very clearly to your situation. I've been through something very, very similar to what you've been through. And it's difficult, even now for me, to say, I forgive you. And I know there are times where I'm like, okay, I need to do that. But today I just really don't want to forgive you. Like today, I just really want to I don't know. It's almost like I want to just stew in my own mire, kind of just wallow in it a little bit. I don't know why, but there are days where I just struggle to let that go. And then there are other days where I'm like, it's fine. Like I feel sorry for her and I need to forgive her, not because she deserves it. It's because I deserve it. Exactly. I deserve to live a better life than holding on to something like that.
I mean, go ahead. Sorry.
I think that forgiveness too is a practice in empathy. It's a lot of times when I have to forgive somebody, it's more like, okay, empathy is a characteristic that I really want to develop better, so a lot of times if you can kind of get that into your head to try to see their side, and I don't know, it helps me to forgive if I detach a little bit and look at it as developing a different character in myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and for me, like, I trust me, and I had to really start because of my sarcastic humor, sometimes I would make jabs. Like I would be like, I mean, and still to this day, I gotta catch myself saying it because like she'll complain about something going on, and I'm like, well, you chose him, like so I gotta remind myself to, I mean, because I used to do that a lot in the beginning too, like just kind of like, well, that's the life that's the bed like, I mean, just recently she texted me and said, was like, the grass isn't always greener on the other side, and people need to pay attention to that. And I'm like, I guess I should have done a better job watering and then, I had to delete that, say, no, don't, I'm like, I want to make jabs, but then I'm I have to not. So it's a process. It's definitely a process.
Yeah, I think that that's one thing because I teach primary and we were talking about forgiveness obviously on Sunday, and we were talking about how it is a process. It's not like a light switch where you just flip it and all of a sudden, okay, it's done, right?
Yep.
Because sometimes there's feelings still involved. Sometimes there's a learning curve we got to get over. Sometimes the person keeps acting or saying the same things that we're trying to forgive them for in the past, and they're just keep doing the same things over and over again. But we were did this demonstration where it's like every time they would say something mean, I think that was the phrase we used. So if someone says something mean, they'll put a boulder in your backpack, right? And it makes it heavy for you. And if they keep adding these boulders and we don't remove them, we're the one carrying around the weight. It's not them. It's not hurting them. So if we forgive and remove the boulders as they're put in, or however we want to remove them, then it lightens our load, and then we don't have to struggle and be weighed down by not forgiving. And so it is a process. It's not like instantaneously. We might carry our backpack with a few boulders for a little while because you know what? Sometimes that's just what we do. But if we want to benefit ourselves and our lives and our children, if we're married or, now finding ourselves divorced with children, it's a better for our kids to forgive because then we don't, like you said, have that load that makes us angry or bitter or whatever. It might be projected toward them versus the person we're really angry at. So,
yeah, I mean, and for me, the process of forgiving was really, I call it my my Carrie Underwood moment. You guys heard her song "Jesus Take the Wheel"?
yeah,
That moment where it's like, hey, because I outward, like, people had no clue that what I was going through. Even when they knew that I was divorced, they still didn't know. I mean, I hide I use a lot of self-deprecation even before my divorce. And I said deprecation, not defecation.
yeah, that's good. Thanks for clarifying.
I used humor, especially, to hide what I was going through. And so finally I just kind of, and still to this day, I do not know how this blog or this little thing showed up, but it was this lady named Kayla Lemming. And it was called the saying where, she has a little blog called Lemonade or something. Lemony Things is what she is called. But there, it came across the feed one day, and it was a story about how that phrase that we always hear, where God won't give us more than we can handle. Well, her letter or her little thing was, God will give us more than we can handle. And so basically, it was at that point where it kind of, we can post it later on or whatever, but it's kind of a cool little thing because it talks about how basically we need to get to a point where we let him, he's going to make our burdens light. So we need to give him all of our anguish, so that way he can, we get down to that point where we're finally like, hey, I've tried it my way. I've tried to do everything my way, but now I have to be humble enough to say, hey, I really need you. This is yours. Help me now. And that's kind of what that, I probably did a disservice to that little thing, but
no, I totally agree, because the truth is he has to give us more than we can handle so that we can turn to him.
Yes.
And
we need
refuge, right?
Yeah.
Like if we can do everything by ourselves, why would we need a savior? So I'm not a big fan of that phrase. I don't like that at all. When people say that, I'm like, that's so not true. He does give us a lot more than we can handle sometimes, personally, because we have to learn to let go. We have to learn to turn to him. We're imperfect. So having too much, teaches us.
And that was
the Lord.
And that's my bishop at the time was right after it was kind of like, finally I came to him and talked to him, and then he was they had a change, and he actually became the stake president. But and so it's like, man, now I gotta say all this stuff, to another bishop, because it was like right in the middle of all of this. And so the new bishop came in, and I feel for people, because I hear people have all these horror stories about members of the wards when you go through a divorce and all this. And he said, look, he goes, Jared, I'm not going to pretend to know what you're going through. I'm not going to tell you, hey, buck up. I've never been through a divorce. I've never experienced a divorce. He goes, his wife, she went through her parents' divorce, but he said that's not the same. He goes, so I'm not going to tell you need to do this or that. He just basically, kind of, just kind of was there, so I can just, kind of go to him without having to go to anybody else. Because I mean, especially in the beginning when things started going rough, I didn't want to. I think in the back of my mind in the very beginning, I kind of wanted things to reconcile so that we could have got back together. So I didn't want to put out too much negativity out there about her, so that if we did get back together, because at that time we were just separated. I didn't want people to go, oh, so, I didn't want them to have negative, because then it just really taints the relationship. And then,
right.
So it was easier to go to the bishop and kind of have him as your sounding board per se, than any other family member or parent, or, because I mean, my mom and my dad they've always had an open door. I mean, my dad was more a little gruff, but my mom was, that perfect opposite of him, and so I, once in a while I would call her and just kind of let her know. And so. Oh.
Did you find that kind of doing that secretively, do you think that was a benefit, or do you think that was more difficult?
I think it was more difficult, because I think it's kind of like, the old peeling off the Band-Aid. I think if I would have, especially if for her too, I told her, I said, I wish you would have just come straight out and told me that you're with this dude, and that because for a long time it was just, everything was like, so like, you're finding out new developments as it goes along. So I think that's why it was so hard. I mean, because if you just know that your marriage is ruined and there's no, I think it's easier sometimes. But like I said, it just going along and then going, wait, whoa, finding out as it goes, and then you have to relive it all over again, instead of just, hey, just tell me everything now. And so that's finally kind of like where I got to the point as like, look, I don't want to know anymore. I forgive you. I can't think about it anymore, because it was just driving me nuts for, probably probably the first 3 to 4 years, 5 years, maybe.
It's a long time.
Was it really hard for you when you would see them together? Like,
oh yeah,
it feels unfair.
Well,
so,
yeah.
Like, why is she with this person? She's got someone in her life, and here I am, like,
yes,
single and all.
Well, and because I basically had to get to the point where, because I mean, I was like so happy that she blocked me on Facebook, because it was like you would see, because like so you would see like this fairy tale stuff that they're always posting on. I mean, because everybody knows we only post what we want.
Stuff.
We only want to post what we want. So you see this.
There's
stuff.
a reason they call it fake book. So yeah.
So anyway, like and then like I basically they would post all this stuff, and then he purposely like unblocked me, and he would tag my kids and stuff, and it's like to the point where I'm like, I've never blocked anybody on Facebook ever. I don't care but him. I had to block him because it would come up in my feeds.
Yeah.
Like he purposely like we were friends already on Facebook and everything and in real life, but he purposely unblocked me and would tag my kids knowing that I'm friends with them, so that this stuff would come up in my feed. And it's just like, dude, I mean, like, so it was, I think, like I said, the quick Band-Aid pull would have been so much easier, and it wouldn't have left. So, I probably would be married by now. because I'm such a great catch. No.
I'm
And
sure
humble
that's
too,
right
right? Yeah.
Yeah. After this podcast, you'll have a little trail of women after you.
But
Well,
but,
so
so it's just, you know, that's it's just kind of really changed my outlook, you know, on everything. And you know, so she just kind of, like I said, we had a conversation where I said, look, you know, it is what it is. What happened. But I said, the only thing I said, the hard part was, I said, you know, because like she's like, I wish I can do everything all over. I said, the only thing is, I said, I really wish you would have done was let that be me and the kids' decision, whether we wanted to you know, because like she says, whatever I did, and she would never tell me. This is the crazy part. It's like she's everything I did, I wish I could redo it, and then I wish I didn't do it, and all this stuff. And I said, but you didn't give us the chance. She took away that from us for forgiving her right away. You know what I mean? I mean, she took that away from my kids. She took that away from me. She made the decision to leave and end the marriage without really consulting us and finding out what, you know, whether because she goes, you can never forgive me. I don't know why you would, you know, how could you forgive someone? And I'm like, that's not your choice. That's my choice. That's agency. Like, it was your choice to do what you did. I can't be mad at that, because that was your agency. I said, but you took away mine of being able to forgive you. So I have to forgive you now, because I need to be able to move on, and I need to focus on me and not dwell on that. You know, I'm still, like I said, like we said, the forget, but I'm definitely going to make sure I do things different. And if I notice someone spending an extra little time with, you know, cause I was never a jealous, I was confident in myself to where I didn't think like, you know, he would make kind of comments like, man, your wife's fine, you know? And it's like, dude, you're married. But I take that as a compliment. I took it as a compliment. I wasn't, you know, I didn't think about, you know, because I thought I was secure enough in my relationship that I didn't. So like now I kind of go back and start, I, you know, especially 4 or 5 years ago, I was dissecting a lot of this all the time. And that's where it was kind of really, you know, so I finally had to just stop, you know, kind of get to that point where.
Yeah, I think that in those, like, there's so much that goes in, like, I'm sure each of us have our own storylines of how we've got to where we're at now. And if you sit and dwell on each of the aspects, or, you know, the individual sections, like, it's not hurting them. It's just hindering you. It's holding you back from you getting to where you need to be to remarry. Like you said, maybe if this would have been sooner, you would have already moved on and remarried by this point.
Yeah, because now I'm old and gray, and who wants
whatever. Hey, you're not, if you're old, then that makes me really old. So don't say that. But the thing is that if we hold on to it, it's not hindering them, right? And so they've already messed up our life enough. Why are we still giving them power in our lives if we're not willing to let that go? It's just hindering us more and hurting us more. And it's, again, not doing anything to them. So I kind of always view it as, you know what, you've done your damage. You've come in, you know, atomic bombed my life, and it's been 20,000 pieces. I've managed to put it back together, and I'm not going to let my anger and whatever bitterness continue to affect my life. I'm going to let it heal, and I'm going to forgive you, because it's not hurting you anyway. It's only hurting me. So yeah, like, we have to take back that power. And by taking back the power, we have to forgive. So
I think with me, when I'm like done with somebody, I'm so done with them. And I almost become indifferent. You know, like if I have to fire an employee because they've really screwed up, it's super simple for me. It's like, hey man, this isn't working out. You're out of here. So because I've kind of gotten to that point, and I think that it took me so long to forgive my ex because I think I was afraid to feel indifferent. You know, because as long as you're angry or sad or happy or jealous or whatever emotion it is, then there's still a chance that it can work out. Because I know that when I'm done, I'm done. You know, you're never coming back when I'm done.
I like how you phrase that. That is so true. There is, maybe it's that fear of like, okay, if I get to that point and let it go, then
you're done. And then when they try to come back, then it's you saying,
then you're like, wait, now my heart's not in it. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. I can see that for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, there is an interesting talk. I don't know if you've ever heard it before, at BYU by James Rasband, not Elder Rasband from the Quorum of the 12, James Rasband. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he's a member of the 70 now, but he, at one point, was the dean of the law program there at BYU. But he gives a talk called Faith to Forgive Grievous Harms. And he talks about the atonement and the restitution. And he talks about how the law of Moses was often viewed as kind of like this punishment, right? Like, well, an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth sort of thing, and kind of what's going on. But he talks also about that restitution that Christ gives us and all this. And the beautiful thing is, when we are hurt like this, when we go through something like you've been through, like many of us have been through, with somebody who is unfaithful, who maybe runs off, and it feels, there's that feeling of unfairness, right? Kind of like, why is their life working out and my life feels like it's in the dumpster right now? Like, what, this is so unfair. This to me is where like my heart like is drawn more to the Savior, because I know not only did he feel that same pain I'm feeling, but he paid a price that will like heal that and make restitution for it. And I don't know exactly how that happens, but to me, just thinking like, okay, when I feel like I've just been ripped off, or I've been wronged, or I've been whatever, cheated on, and all of those things, and it's supremely unfair. And maybe it is unfair, right? Like, I don't know that it's fair that a spouse takes off, abandons a family, and goes and pursues their own selfish endeavors, right? But all of that is going to be made whole. I don't know how, I don't know when, but I know that it will. And that to me is the most amazing, beautiful thing, and makes me just love the Savior all that more, that he would be willing for somebody like me, who I look at myself and I see my faults and my flaws and all the things I do wrong. And I'm like, you would pay that price and make that whole again for somebody like me. Like, that is awesome. So that part to me gives me hope of forgiveness. And I see you've got something you want to show us there, Jared.
Just to say, it's kind of funny because, or not funny, or I guess that's the poor, whatever. This, I carry this in my wallet because my mom gave it to me when I was going through my divorce. And she wrote on the picture, she says, "This is my favorite picture of Jesus Christ. He died for you. He loves you, and he wants you to be happy. He has felt your pain, and he will take it away." So anyways, we'll change subject real quick because I don't want to.
No, I think that that's a very valid point. I think that during our forgiveness, while we're trying to forgive, like, we have to have that hope that the Lord is going to make things right, and that he is aware of us, and that all of the effort and the pain and the struggle that goes along with forgiveness, despite knowing in the end it's going to help us, just knowing that he's aware of that, and that he is proud of us for doing it, or even attempting to do it. Because I think sometimes it's a day-to-day thing. I remember looking back and I would just be like, Lord, just help me through today. Help me try to get through today without thinking something mean or saying something mean, or, whatever that I was trying to overcome in the moment when it was coming to forgiving my ex. And it was a day-to-day battle for me. Like, I couldn't think long-term. If I thought long-term, I would have just curled up and died, because I'm like, there's no way I could ever get there. So I did a day by day. Like, in the morning, I'd ask for help. In the evening, I'd ask for forgiveness because I'd usually messed up. And I don't know, like, knowing he's there and that he's aware of me, like one in however many people are on this earth. It's amazing.
No, and that's why, like, with when you said that, Everett, about turning to Christ, I mean, that's how that picture, I had to get that out and share that, because it's, people think that, and then I think Jamie's saying something about Gethsemane, and a lot of people think that the atonement was just for sin, and it's not. I mean, he took on every sorrow, every sickness, every sin, every little thing for you, Celeste, everything for you, not just for I mean, it was every individualized. It's all for us individually. He felt every single thing that was going to happen in our lives. And also you, Tara, sorry, but I didn't mean to.
No, it's true.
But,
like he knows what Tara
it's
felt.
individualized. It was all individualized. It's
Mhm.
not just for, it's not just for sin. It's for, you know, getting over a sickness, getting over a heartache, getting over, you know, all of it. That's what the atonement's for.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, or not funny, but the thing that I've come to understand that really helped me is that he didn't like understand, oh, I know what it feels like to have a divorce, to go through a divorce. He understands how you, Jared, felt going through a divorce, how Tara felt exactly when she went through. Like he knows each individual and how that individual felt. And that's what's so amazing. Like he knew every feeling I had. And I had a lot of them.
It's so
and it's
simple, but
amazing.
yet so hard to grasp that for a
Yeah.
while, though.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, it's kind of like goes back to when, you know, where everybody got bit with the snake and all they had to do was turn and look at that staff. And it was such a simplistic thing. They didn't want to. And the ones that finally did realize, oh, wow, it's that simple. And that's the atonement is so simple, but yet still so hard to do and so hard to, you know, to use to our benefit. It you know, I mean, it's difficult, but it's simple, all in the same. I mean, if that's an oxymoron or not, but I mean, that's just how my thought process is on it.
Well, it's because you know, it's easy to be obsessed with the wound instead of looking to see the healer. You know, and that's exactly what happened back then too. They were obsessed with their wounds instead of, you know, realizing how easily they could be healed. So yeah.
Absolutely. Have you ever heard of the story that Elder, why am I drawing a blank? I think he's the third most junior apostle right now. He was also a doctor. Help me out here, somebody.
No, that narrows it down. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm like, they're all doctors.
Gosh, I've got Razban stuck on my brain right now.
All right.
I'll think of it in a minute. Anyways, he tells a story about his mission president and how he was close with his mission president when he was on his mission. Gosh, I can't even see this guy's face. Why am I drawing a blank? It's been a long day. So
somebody said Renland.
Renland, yes, thank you. Elder Renland.
That was David R.
So he tells the story of his mission president and how he is on his mission. He's basically like looks up to his mission president. I don't know, anybody that has served a mission, we all kind of looked up to our mission president. It's like, all right, this guy's awesome. But when his mission president gets home and he's got young kids, he's got a wife, I think he was late 40s or something like that. So still kids at home and stuff. But he said due to some health issues, his mission president kind of made some poor choices. And I'm not exactly sure what that means. But his mission president ends up essentially having an affair, leaving his wife, and marrying this other lady, right? So his wife, the mission president's wife that was close to Elder Renland, devastated, of course, and just is kind of like, well, I'm just going to stay single, kind of like what you've done, and continue to raise the kids, right? I'm not going to remarry. I'm just going to kind of do what I need to do and stay close to Christ. Meanwhile, of course, the mission president leaves the church and kind of goes and does his thing and is married to this other lady. 30 years this is going on, right? And the wife, the previous wife, serves like several missions, does all this stuff, serves in the temple, raises her kids, all of that. And this husband is off with the new wife doing his thing and kind of like, whatever. How unfair must that have felt for all of that time, especially when I hear from a lot of people, well, I was married in the temple. I did everything I was supposed to do. It should have worked out and it didn't. And they get bitter at Heavenly Father, right?
Yeah.
So this lady continues to hold faithful. And Elder Renland continues and says, now the rest of the story is that when he became an apostle, he went and visited with this lady. And there was a part of the story that he was unaware of. And that is that in the elderly years, I think it was 30 years down the road, this lady that the guy had an affair with, and they had left and gone and gotten married and kind of done their thing, she ends up leaving him. And he's not in the greatest of health. He's elderly. But the wife, the first wife, who had been faithful this whole time, served in the temple, gone on a couple missions and all of this sort of thing, she ends up taking him back. Now you talk about forgiveness, of what that must have been like and how that must have felt to accept somebody back like that. But she said, I still loved him after all of these years, after feeling so unfairly treated during all of that time. Eventually it came back around and it was made whole. They were able to get remarried. I think they had a few years together. He wasn't in great health, but a few years together before his health really declined, and then he passed away. So we never really know how that's going to turn out. And in those moments of unfairness, that's been a great story for me. It's been something that has really been kind of comforting to know that whether it's now, whether it's 10 years down the road, whether it's 30 years or 100 years down the road, at one point or another, Heavenly Father will make that whole, however that looks. And you and I and all of us are meant to be eternal. 1,000 years, 10,000 years down the road, 1,000,000 years down the road. Is that 10 years, that 5 years, that 30 years, whatever it is that going to really seem like that big of a deal once it's all made whole again? It's really hard to keep that eternal perspective. But for me, that story helped a ton. So if you get a chance, look up Elder Renlund's mission president story. So I think he gave it in a BYU speech as well. I think he might have talked about it in a couple different places, but very encouraging.
That's a really spectacular story. I don't know, I'm not sure if I have that in me, but what an amazing person to come back around and be so forgiving and be trusting. That's the thing that it's you can forgive, but the trust, once you break trust, that's hard, super hard to get back. So
yeah, one of the talks that going through the process that was forgiving oneself, and it's Elder Chad Richardson. He says forgiving oneself, and this is where kind of go along with the forgiveness and forget part, where it kind of made it easier. Let me pull it up here. I thought I had it already. Sorry. Forgiveness does not mean excusing sin. I mean, we've kind of talked about this a little bit, but this is where he says forgiving a sin does not mean excusing it. When we forgive a sin, we neither say it is okay nor that payment will not be required. Rather, forgiveness allows us to turn both the final judgment of guilt and the full payment of the debt over to the Lord. The Lord tells us in Doctrine and Covenants 64:11, we ought to say in our hearts, let God judge between me and thee and reward thee according to thy deeds. Further in Doctrine and Covenants 82:23, he says, leave judgment alone with me, for it is mine and I will repay. Yeah. So that's what made it easier for me, because it's kind of like that whole back to where I said, Jesus, take the wheel, take my burden.
Yeah.
I do not need to drag this around. Life is already difficult. Yeah, life is already difficult. There's so much negativity. Let this just, let that be on the judgment day. So that way we don't have to sit there and focus on it, and we can enjoy whatever relationships, whatever we, like someone said in here, the future, I think on that, someone said something about the quote about,
it was really good. I took a screenshot of
when
it.
you forgive, you don't change the past, you change the future. Right. So, I mean, spot on. I mean, that's exactly where we're at, and that's what we have to do. And it's difficult. It is, but it's also simplistic, and it's just once you get that, and like I said, it's a day-to-day thing. I mean, I'll go be perfectly fine, and then there'll be times where I'm like, man, I just why? It's like, because especially not having, one of the main things I miss from being in a relationship is at the end of the day, having that partner that you can confide in and talk about your day. Cause it's like, dude, it's like sometimes, sometimes I want to be the little spoon.
Absolutely.
I want someone to take my hand and say, hey, everything's going to be great. But I mean, you can only do that so much with your kids. I mean, but that's, of course, you miss all the other extracurricular activities that come with being married, but
Yeah.
we'll
I have a friend who, she was married to a guy, they were sealed in the temple, and he eventually ran off with another girl, and they got divorced. And he and this other girl kind of worked through their problems. They got married, and I don't know exactly how long it took them, but they eventually end up getting their blessings restored, getting rebaptized, getting sealed in the temple, and then moving into her ward where she was at. And she's like, it just feels like every Sunday I'm there, it felt like a slap in the face, because here this couple is like, that's supposed to be my family, right? Like they had 2 kids together. He abandoned the kids. He's just like, whatever. This is my new wife, like just kind of started over. And he still had some contact with his kids. Not a lot, I guess, but more than some. But that feeling of this is unfair was like coupled with like, okay, now not only that, but now you add the gospel component into it where they are sealed together and they're this happy couple in church, and people look at you like, well, why are you single? Like these guys got it figured out. Like, well, you don't understand. That used to be my husband. Like that's what I was supposed to have. And it was basically ripped from me. And now everything seems to be okay with them. But yet here I am still struggling. And she battled that for years, several years. Eventually she met somebody and got married and had, gosh, I think they had like 4 more kids or something like that.
Wow.
So it did work out, but it was almost like Heavenly Father had to throw that out there a little bit and say, you know what? I want to see how strong you really are. And I want to test you a little bit, but if you trust me in the end, it will be better than what you can imagine. But sitting there in church, I don't know if I could do that. I'm just being honest with where I'm at. Like that would be very difficult for me.
But yeah, that's the one thing I mean, I guess I could say I'm glad her new spouse is of a different faith, because they moved into they would have been in my ward.
Oh man.
but because she wanted to be closer to the kids, but I'm like you said, I'm glad. I mean, I don't know if I could handle. I mean, that'd be super hard. I mean, to sit there and see them, he's getting the back rub. Where's my back rub? No.
Yeah,
that's tough. I think that
sheesh, that would be rough.
Anytime you're in a divorce situation where you've got kids, you're put in that those moments where you're kind of like, this can be and is uncomfortable. Like I think, because I'm listening to this lady that Everett was just talking about, and how her ex was in the ward, and like in my heart, this is going to sound weird because my ex is kind of not active right now by any means, and I wish that was him. I would want him to be in my ward. Sure, come and be and do, so that my kids can have a father that's active in the church. But I can understand the challenge it would be as well.
And that's why I was saying that's why I was saying that's kind of like the hard thing is that's the part that, because for my kids' sake, I wish my ex would have stayed active, because now I think my middle one, she's not rebelling, but she's kind of, I mean, she probably given too much. Hopefully she never logs into this podcast ever, but she got a little tattoo, and she said, it's for me, and I'm like, oh, all right. I mean, she got it in remembrance of me. It's a little butterfly behind her ear. Aww. But it's like, it's still kind of like that, toting that line of, it's a tattoo. I really don't care. Like her mom was kind of like, oh my goodness, everybody from church is gonna, and I'm like, it's a tattoo. I'm like, everybody's got.
Did they ask you about tattoos with your temple interview?
No, that's what I was.
You're okay. You can be exalted with a tattoo.
Oh yeah, no, but that's what I'm saying. Because she's in a relationship right now where it's like the boy is not active. He does drink every once in a while, so it's kind of like, that's not what you want for your kid. But I think she sees that with how, I don't know. It's just it's bitter. it's bittersweet. It's kind of hard because you're torn and you got to let your kids live their lives. And then like for me, like that's the only time usually we talk, I talk to my exes about the kids. And so it's like, look, hey, my door will always be open. My kids know that. I tell them that every day. Yes, I may be disappointed with you. I may be upset. I might get frustrated, but I will always love them.
Yeah.
And my door is always, so let her live. She's 19 years old. I kind of had to find my way at 18, 19. Go find yourself. We just have to hope that we did enough as parents to give them that solid rock, that solid foundation to where they know when they can,
Bring back around. Yep.
So, I mean.
So Jared, I mean, just to be kind of real for a minute, I mean,
Was
we
I not
hear, okay, well, we hear all the time in the church, like, well, you have to forgive them because it's the right thing to do. And yes, all of those things are true, but let's be honest, sometimes you just want to like hold on to that. Like I feel like in the church, we almost do a disservice to it because we make it sound so easy, especially somebody who's going to come back around and continue to hurt you with maybe spreading rumors or lies and things of like, well, I left Jared because he was abusive. And you're like, what? That never happened. Or I left Jared because of X, Y, or Z, right? Like this is something that happens quite a bit. And I remember my bishop telling me like, it's been his experience that when the person who usually leaves and is having an affair or doing something they shouldn't be doing is the guilty one, what they usually try and do is redirect and throw the shade onto the other person and put all the blame. And they'll continue to do that so that it kind of takes the spotlight off of them.
Yeah.
So in a situation like that, how do we like go through this process and be real with somebody? Like if I'm the bishop and somebody comes to me and says like, my spouse just left me for somebody else and I'm really upset with them. If I'm going to sit there and say to them like, well, you just need to forgive them, I wouldn't blame them if they like want to reach over the desk and choke me.
Oh,
no, because it's not that easy.
No, and it's not. And that's why hopefully anybody can get from this. I'm not saying that it's easy. Yeah. It has not been easy, and everybody's different. I mean, we all process things differently. Like I said, I think the real thing that's really helped me is realizing about having to come up with the definition and staying on that definition of divorce. It's not and then also forgiving. Forgiving is a constant thing. I mean, it's not easy. I still have moments of where I just wish I can, hold on to that anger, especially when I just hear some of the stuff, how my kids, especially when it comes to the kids. I mean, now my kids are old enough. I mean, my youngest is 16. So he's with me. He doesn't have to see it every day as much as when they were younger, but that's the part that it's like, you can say what you want and do what you want to me, but my kids are
off limits.
Yeah. I mean, that's when
I think it's tough to forgive when it's the
that's fight mode. I mean, and so I mean, it's hard. And so I have to like I told my kids, my girls, especially my middle one, she's had a harder time forgiving her mom because. And she still kind of is angry with her mom, and she has a hard time with sometimes seeing me being not angry at mom also, because she's like, not only did mom just leave you, she left us, and I said, I understand, but I said, it's just, we have, it's just, it's finding that fine line, and it's really difficult, and it's a constant battle that we're going to have probably for forever. I mean,
well, and we're all on different parts of the road too. It's like, it's really hard when, your kids might be just discovering what was wrong. And so they're in a totally different playing field than you are. It's also hard to forgive somebody when they haven't let go of a lot of grudges that they have towards you yet.
Well, they kind of, like I said, kind of going back, I mean, their mom thought that they didn't know what was going on, but like I said, I didn't like go out and give them all kinds of details. But when they said, why are you and mom getting divorced? I said, well, because she found someone else.
Right.
I didn't, I mean, and she got mad at me for me telling the kids. And I'm like, what am I supposed to tell them? I mean, that's why you're getting married in a couple months. I mean,
exactly.
So,
well, and that's where it kind of, you know, I hear this a lot. I don't think it's the other parent's job to cover for the cheating parent's mistakes.
I mean, like I said, I'm not going to go out and give them all the details of what happened every single time and what you know,
you don't need to tell them that.
I'm just like, look, you know, when you guys are ready and you want to come talk to me, you know, I'll let you little, you know. So, you know, so that's the difficult part, is finding that balance between, you know, because I never bad talked their mother ever through the whole process, you know, because I mean, that's their mother. Yeah. And I always wanted to show them how, even with, you know, because it's kind of funny, it's kind of cute, because my daughter, when we were waiting for the divorce to be finalized, my daughter wanted to sign me up on LDS Planet. And I was like, no, I said, I can't, not till the divorce is final. So when the divorce was final and it came in the mail, you know, I finally got the little stamp. She's like, hey, we can go out on double date, because she was 16 at the time. No. And I said, I don't know if we can do double. I'm flattered, but I'm like, I don't know, you know, going on double dates with you, because I don't know how your date or my date will, you know, but I'm flattered that you think I'm cool enough to go out on a date with, you know, be a double dater. But it was just kind of, you know, it's just, I don't know. It's just something. Each kid's different. Each kid's taking it different. My son was the youngest. I mean, you know, he was what is he? He's 16. So yeah, 10 years. So he was 6 when, you know, when everything really started going, you know, so he really was the one that was kind of cheated a lot more but so I wanted to make sure I, as a man and as a father and as a husband, show him how, even with all this going on, we still need to respect, you know, his mother. And that way he will still continue to respect women, you know, because that's somebody, even though I was, even when I was mad and angry, that was still someone's mother, someone's daughter. And that's what I had to remind myself. Because if any of my kids, you know, spouses, if something goes awry in their marriage and they're despicable to my kid, yeah, you know, I might be driving up to Utah.
Yeah.
So
Jared, you know, we're kind of getting to that point where we're close on time, but let's just play kind of a role play here for a minute.
Oh.
I suddenly like show up, you're bishop, and I'm going through a divorce. You've been through this, right? Or maybe not even bishop. You're just there talking as a friend, right? And I've been through all of this. What advice do you have to give for somebody where they're just struggling? Like, I really am struggling with this. It seems like everything worked out for them. That's not how it's supposed to work. They cheated on me. Why is it working out for them? And then look at my life. What do you tell them?
The only thing I think I could say, man, that's so, wow, put me on the spot there, huh? I think
that's why it's so hot seat, Jared.
Right. I think the thing that I could only kind of, you know, base it on my experience is what I'm going to need you to do is focus on yourself for a while. Don't worry about what they're going through. We don't know their story. You don't know what's going on behind that closed door. You don't know if that relationship is as glamorous as you think it is. And even if it is, that's none of your business. It's not. It's none of your business what's going on. All you can do is focus on you. And I'm assuming you have kids, right? You know, focus on your kids. Make sure that your kids still know at the end of the day that you're, you know, a strong priesthood holder, that you are there for them, that you're going to be there for them, that you can be that example that they need, and not worry about. I mean, yeah, you're going to have days where you want to just, you know, call it quits and just go into a hole, but it's going to get better. I mean, you know, you're in charge of you. That's the great thing, and also the sadness of agency.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be great if I mean, this is, and I might be struck by lightning, but I mean, think about it. I could understand how the third of the host of heaven chose to go with Satan's plan, because think about it. If I didn't have to choose and worry about what I have to do every day, and it was just like, hey, this is what you're doing, this is how things are going to get, and everything's going to be great. Isn't that going to be so much easier than having that choice be yours? I mean, it's the agency part. It's being able to do, you're in charge of your life. You can't do anything for your spouse. You can't change how, you can only focus on you and be there for your kids. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, that's the only advice I could give is just to focus on yourself, focus on your kids, and try to turn to Christ. I mean, that's what he's there for. Read scriptures. I know people hate to hear that. They always say, I don't want to hear the read scriptures, read the scriptures, read your patriarchal blessing. See what, if you had one, go back and just see and see where it's at and there's still stuff that's there's still greatness out there for you. I mean, it may have changed the dynamic. Our patriarchal blessing is kind of like a roadmap. And if you look at a roadmap, we still have that destination that we're going through, but it's going to take us, sometimes we might have to make detours, but it's still going to be there. It's still accessible for you to read. The scriptures are still there to help you, guide you to where you need to be. Turn to Jesus and just focus on Christ, and everything else will come. I don't know how soon it will come. That's up to you. But I'll tell you what, anytime you need, call me up. I'm here. My phone will be, that's all I could be. I could just be a sounding board, or I can talk your ear off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would
think
just add.
validation is key.
What's that?
Go ahead, Celeste.
I was just saying, I think validation. Oh, something just fell over in my room. I think validation is key. I think in that moment, someone just needs to be heard. And
Yep.
they just want to know that the feelings that they have are valid, and that it was okay to feel the way that they feel. Looking at them and saying, well, life isn't fair. I mean, Christ is atoning for all of your sins. That's not really fair, is it? That's not going to help them, even though it's true.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm saying it's such a hard, that's all. It's really a difficult. That's why I'm so grateful that my bishop did not do that.
Yeah, exactly.
He right away said, look, I feel you. I mean, I just don't know what to tell you. I just don't know how. He goes, I can't even imagine. I don't want to imagine. He's like, I can help you with everything else. I can give you scriptures. He goes, but I can't tell you how to feel.
Yeah.
I don't know. But he's the one that said there is one person. And then my mom also, told me there is one person that knows how you felt.
Yep.
And that's who you need to turn to. And that's who you need to go to. You need to get on your knees and go in earnest prayer and speak to our Father in heaven, like you would be speaking to myself, as my mom had told me, and really reach out and ask him to help you through this. That's what he's there for. That's what the atonement are, that's what our Savior is there for. That's what they're there for, us to reach out and talk to them and rely on them.
One thing I might add to that, I think what you said was fantastic. I've seen a lot of people on here that come and go, and probably the best advice through all of it that we could give is to just, blessings are predicated on two parts, right? Like one, worthiness, and two, timing. Yeah. Sometimes we feel like we're worthy, but the Lord isn't ready yet for whatever reason, whatever timing that might be. Maybe he's got somebody that he's like, hey, I think they'd be fantastic for you, but they're not ready yet. Whatever that looks like, I don't know. But I would say, when you're focusing on yourself, make sure you get your house in order. Keep it in order. Be worthy. Go to the temple. Do those things, and then wait for the Lord's blessings. When that timing is right, however that looks, if your house is in order, he can pour all of those blessings on you and fill that house and then some. But if your house is not in order, it's going to be very difficult when that time comes for him to bless you properly. But all these hurts and pains that you feel right now will definitely be swallowed up in all of the wonderful things he will pour on you if you just hold true and keep your house in order. That's what Elder Renlund's ex-wife did for 30 years. 30 years. That's a huge struggle, but she did it. And at the end, it all worked out. And when the timing was right, the Lord blessed her again with her original husband, and everything came back around. But she remained faithful and just trusted in the Lord. That's a super hard thing to do.
Yeah.
So anyways, Jared.
Yeah.
You're awesome, man. You know, you're not short on words. I bet you we could keep going for like a couple hours.
Yeah, everybody we'll start seeing those participant numbers drop though.
Whatever.
Right. I have a tendency to fall asleep just at the drop of a hat. Like Celeste makes fun of me all the time about that. So
I know. At least I kept you awake a little longer, right?
That's true.
You did a great job.
I was worried I'd make you fall asleep on camera. That's what my biggest fear was.
No. I'm good. I'm ready. I'll just get a bunch of Dr. Pepper and we'll power through it. We'll make it happen. So, but no, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And
hopefully somebody needed to hear what I had to say, and even if it helps a little's better than nothing. So I mean, that's all we can do is try, right? One page, one day, 1 second at a time.
Absolutely. And for those who came late or may have shown up in the middle and just kind of got part of a conversation, we will be posting this again on YouTube, so you can check it out there. Please subscribe to our channel. We'll make sure that we get new videos up there on a regular basis, and check out our Facebook page too, where this is streamed live. So you can also go back and watch it there. So for those who joined us on Facebook, thank you. Go ahead.
Before you stop hitting record, I need to make sure, just in case, my ex, I want to make sure people, if they ever, she is a great woman. She was very good to my kids. She was good to me for the most part. She made some poor choices. So I don't want anyone to ever, if any of my kids ever see this or anything, because I know it lives forever on YouTube. I just want to make sure that, and I'm not just saying this to say it, but this is how I truly feel. She was a great mother, and at times she was a great wife. She made some poor choices that led to our situation now, but I don't want anyone to ever, think that she was a horrible woman. She, like I said, she made horrible choices, but she was a great mother to my kids. So, and she'll always have a part of my heart. That's just how it is, that she's going to be the mother. And I don't want people to think, oh, he's still, no, I'm not. You can love someone and not be in love with them. I think there's a big difference, and people don't understand. So I will always love her, but I'm not in love with her, if that makes sense. And I don't want that to be like a cliche or think people are thinking I'm just saying this. That's how I truly feel. My kids will attest to it. I'm a firm believer of, my kids hate my little saying right here, but I don't sugarcoat anything.
Yeah.
I can put as much sugar on a piece of poop, and when you bite into it, it's still a piece of poop, and it's going to taste like a piece of poop. So why would I want to sprinkle all this sugar on it? So I tell it straight. I don't try to mince words. I don't hold back, and I'm not going to just say something,
Thank you. No, I think that's great. And I want everyone else to understand too, that this isn't an opportunity to bash exes. Sometimes we get people on here who, are still feeling some of that pain, and some of that does come out. That's certainly not our intention here, to bash anybody's ex-spouse. We all have our stories. We all have our pain. We all make mistakes, big and small. That's just life. And so we're not here to judge anybody or say this person is whatever. We're just here to talk about how we as single people can share some of our experiences, help others who may be struggling with it, and grow and learn and do better for all of us. That's where we're at. So thank you for helping participate in this healing process and this journey of ours as singles here in the church. And hopefully, there are other people that will find this beneficial as well. So at the end of this, for those who are just joining us for the first time, this is where we stop the recording. We turn it off on Facebook, and then we just sort of open it up to the camera or to the audience, to everybody turn their mics and cameras on if they choose. You're obviously under no obligation, but we call it the after party, just a chance to mingle and kind of chat afterwards and share all the good and fun things that whatever we want to talk about. So having said that, thank you again for being on tonight, Jared. We really appreciate it. Love having you on every week. You're always a great person to chat it up in the after party shows. So now we know a little bit more about you, so we can kind of pick on you, ask you how the chickens and the rooster and the peacocks are going and all that.
And I'm clean shaven and it's growing back in.
I'm gonna be honest with you, I might get a little shorter.
I usually, like I said, this is that was the winter cut. That was the winter look.
Gotcha. Well, thank you again. Okay, so having said that,